There's a report going out there that Mike Tomlin might be done coaching after this season, and it's not because the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to fire him, it's because he'd be stepping away from football. So, top ESPN analyst and reporter Adam Schefter has reported that Mike Tomlin might be stepping away from the Steelers coaching position after the season. And also, close friend of Mike Tomlin as well as reporter Jay Glazer has also reported the exact same thing. So, before I get into the report by both guys and give you the direct quotes from each of them, I just want to say this before I get into it. It seems like this kind of stuff always happens when it's an important game for the Steelers, or right before their matchup. And once again, it's coming right at a time where the Steelers are supposed to be focused on the Buffalo Bills for the Wildcard game. And this report just has to come during the week just to kind of be a distraction for the team. So hopefully this is not a distraction and the Steelers are able to focus on the game. But it seems like this type of stuff always comes as the Steelers are getting ready for an important matchup. But besides that, let me get into the report by both guys. So, like I said, it's not about if the Steelers will fire Mike Tomlin. They obviously won't. We know this. But Adam Schefter and Jay Glazer, who is Tomlin's close friend, both said that it could be possible that Tomlin wants to step away from the game. Here's what Adam Schefter had to say. Here's his quote. And once again, he's one of the top ESPN reporters and reporters in the whole NFL. He covers all the breaking news and stuff like that. This is what he said. They're not firing Mike Tomlin, but here's the thing that's interesting. He's got a year left on his contract, and there are some people around the league who believe that Mike Tomlin could decide to eventually take some time off like Sean Payton did. Maybe take a year off. We'll see if that's something that's on his mind. But Mike Tomlin gets to dictate what happens here, not the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not firing him. He's staying on, but he's staying on if he wants to. If he decides that he'd like to walk, well, that's a different subject. Maybe there's a team out there. He's from Washington. His wife loves Los Angeles. Maybe one of them wants to lob a call over to the Steelers to see if they could wind up doing something with him. So that's what he had to say. And the fact that he's bringing this up at this point in time, or just bringing it up at all, he probably wouldn't bring it up if he wasn't hearing some rumblings about it. There's no way a top respected reporter is coming out and saying this type of stuff if he hasn't at least heard something about it going around the NFL. So maybe some other teams are willing to get a call, trying to make a trade for Mike Tomlin, or he's just hearing that Mike Tomlin might be deciding to step away eventually from the Steelers. Either way, Adam Schefter, this is what he had to say about it. Now, let's move over to Mike Tomlin's close friend, Jay Glazer, who kind of echoed the exact same sentiment that Adam Schefter reported on Mike Tomlin. Here's his quote. So, Mike Tomlin, it will be his choice if he goes back to the Steelers or not. It will be his choice. So, that's what he had to say. And Mike Tomlin, he always says, and he did acknowledge before this season that he is entering his 17th season as the team's head coach, and that he has more years behind him than ahead of him. But at just 51 years old, he still has plenty of energy, it seems, to continue coaching for quite some time if he wants to. But he does acknowledge that he has more years in his past than ahead of him. So if he wants to continue coaching, he'll probably be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he doesn't continue coaching, he'll probably go into some broadcasting or something like that, and then eventually maybe he'll get into coaching again. Maybe he will take the Sean Payton route, which Adam Schefter said, and I guess that kind of worked out for the New Orleans Saints, because when they traded Sean Payton to the Denver Broncos, they're able to get, I believe it was a first and a second round draft pick, or a great compensation for a coach. But Mike Tomlin, we always hear, especially this season, that the Steelers should move on from him. Many of the fans, many of people are speaking out saying maybe this is a year the Steelers finally fire Mike Tomlin. Maybe this is a year that he's finally moved on from the Pittsburgh Steelers head coaching position. And now that the season has ended, when we look at it and kind of recap it in total, at the time when Mike Tomlin and all the fans were saying that about him, it made sense, okay? It made sense. I 100% agree that Mike Tomlin doing a bad job, picked the wrong offense coordinator, picked the wrong quarterback, and just the offense was terrible, and the defense was doing all right, but it wasn't doing too great, and the Steelers team looked awful. Now, just recapping the season 3 weeks later from when all of that was being said, it's kind of a different position because the Steelers were able to get to the playoffs. And it's not that they're just able to get to the playoffs. You look at the team that they're able to get to the playoffs with. They had an offense coordinator, which was the bottom worst coordinator maybe ever of the Pittsburgh Steelers history. You look at Matt Canada, did an awful job. The Steelers were terrible. You look at the quarterbacks that Mike Tomlin dealt with this season. Kenny Pickett, yes, you could say that he won games for the Steelers, but some people might say he only won those fourth quarter comebacks because the rest of the game he did nothing. You look at Mitchell Trubisky, he was dealing with him, absolutely terrible. Yes, he started him for whatever reason he started him, but still Mitchell Trubisky, who has experience in this league, has been a starter, has a winning record in this league, was just terrible. And Mike Tomlin trusted him, it failed. Then he moved over to Mason Rudolph, and then he was able to get the Steelers into the playoffs. But you look at the quarterback situation, terrible. You look at the injuries that he's dealt with this season from a lot of playmakers on the team. From Deontay Johnson missing the basically 4 weeks of the season. He played week 1, got injured, and then missed the next 4 weeks. You look at Cameron Heyward, out basically half the season with his groin injury, more than half the season. Needed surgery, came back, wasn't himself, but he's still playing. You look at all the injuries they dealt with at inside linebacker. Basically, their whole entire inside linebacker group depleted. You look at their safety position. Every single starting safety they had this season, they were out. No starting safety that they came into the season with played in the last game. Also, you look at the suspensions. DeMonte Casey suspended. So you look at all the injuries, you look at all of that, and you can see and you probably think, how did the Steelers even make the playoffs? They had to sign people who were not even in the NFL, like Eric Rowe. He wasn't even on a roster. He wasn't retired, but he was just not on a roster because no one seemed him fit to be a starting safety or just a safety in this league. He also had to go out and sign some inside linebackers who were retired. He had to bring Miles Jack out of retirement. Had to bring the guy from the Giants, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but he had to bring him out of retirement as well. Played a couple games. You look at the Steelers, they had to sign Mykal Walker. He wasn't in the NFL either. He wasn't retired, but he just wasn't in the NFL. They had to sign these people who weren't even playing to come play for their team. And then they were able to get into the playoffs. They won the last 3 weeks and they made it. So if it was any other team, you would look at it and be like, yeah, they 100% should not make the playoffs. They're the first team in NFL history, I believe it is, to make the playoffs and have a winning record with a negative point differential. And they did it. They made it. And it was a good coaching job because Mike Tomlin was able to get the best out of all of his players and end up with 10 wins and make the playoffs, even though they might have no chance against Buffalo Bills. Who knows? Buffalo Bills are not a great team. They've been playing up and down. Who knows if they're going to win? But you would not expect this team to be in the playoffs and do what they did this season with everything that went on. So many people were calling for Mike Tomlin's job, but now looking at it, him and the coach from the Browns, Kevin Stefanski, you look at him, the only injuries he's dealt with this season was the quarterback spot and running back spot. Everyone else was healthy on their team. And then he only finished with 11 wins. And he's the front runner for Coach of the Year for just making the playoffs as well. Mike Tomlin only had one less win. He dealt with so many more injuries than him. Even Kenny Pickett, he's dealt with injuries as well. He had to leave how many games with a concussion, ankle injury. He had to deal with backup quarterbacks being substituted in and out. Mike Tomlin had to deal with a lot this season. And he's not even in a position to win the Coach of the Year. Kevin Stefanski is. So you look at it and be like, hey, Mike Tomlin, we might have been calling for his job earlier in the season, but now just kind of looking back at it, he did a pretty good job. But some of it you could say that he inflicted on himself because of the coordinator call, because of the quarterback call of who he wanted to start. Yes, you could say he inflicted some of it on himself, but at the end of the day, he did a really good job with his football team this season, when many of us probably never expected to even be in the playoffs, nor even finish with a 10-win record. So, the Steelers' Mike Tomlin, if he does decide to leave football, who knows? It's going to be his decision. Maybe Adam Schefter is hearing some things. Maybe his close friend Jake Glazer is hearing some things. But at the end of the day, the Steelers will not fire him. That will not happen. It's going to be if he decides to walk away from this team and take some time off. And if he does take some time off, would he return as the Steelers head coach later down the line? Or would the Steelers have to trade him like Sean Payton? But do you want him fired? Let me know down in the comments below if you want Mike Tomlin to return as not fired, but would you want Mike Tomlin to return as the head coach next season? Or do you think it's time for him to step away from the game and the Steelers move on from him, go some other place different, move more towards maybe an offensive head coach instead of a defensive head coach? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about this whole situation. Or do you believe this is just made up and they're just talking about this to keep the Steelers distracted and have something to talk about before this bye week, before this playoff wildcard matchup, and kind of distract the Steelers heading into this game? Because it seems like stuff like this always happens. Stories like this always drop right as the Steelers have an important game. Let me know your thoughts on this topic down in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below as well. If you like Steelers content analysis reports, like the video, make sure you turn on post notifications. Click that bell down below for this channel as well, so you get notified whenever I post the next Steelers video, whenever I drop these type of rumors, news report type of videos, or just breaking news in general. If the Steelers sign someone, or draft someone, or just film breakdowns, reaction videos, I post every single day with new stuff about your Steelers. So if you want to be covered and know everything about them, make sure you turn notifications, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.